Let's talk a little LSU recruiting because the Tigers have a shot to finish the summer even stronger than they entered it. So on Saturday, we got defensive lineman Deuce Gerald's making an announcement. Shay, does LSU have a shot here?
They have a shot. I mean, look, the connection is that he's got a lot of family in the Baton Rouge area. Scotlandville, a school right outside of Baton Rouge, is where his father played, and his father was recruited to Ole Miss and played there, but recruited by Frank Wilson, who is known as one of the best recruiters in the SEC across the past couple of decades, and is back at LSU again and has spearheaded this recruitment. And they're certainly in, as Chad Simmons and Steve Waltfong have noted, maybe the top two here. His list is longer than that with hats on the table, but Josh, a lot of people have thought Oregon has been the team to beat. He's going to leave the state of Georgia for college. His dad did play at Ole Miss, so they are in the mix here and can't be slept on. But there was a point a couple of weeks ago where I thought, hey, look, LSU is probably in the lead right now. I think there's been some jockeying back and forth that could continue up to Saturday, but right now I would maybe give Oregon the edge over LSU, and we'll see how the coming days unfold.
All right. Well, I think we're going to be covering or streaming Deuce Gerald's. We're working on that. There's some bit of initial talk. So you guys, that's why you got to be subscribed, because you get notified when we go live. I don't even know when we go live, so how are you guys going to know? Well, if you're subscribed, then you'll get a notification. All right, let's talk about, well, do you think, Shay, that LSU could end up landing the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers? Because on August 8th, out of Mississippi, Jace Matthews, the number 2 ranked wide receiver in America, is set to make his decision with Tristan Keys already on board. This would be one hell of a haul for LSU.
Yeah, we just talked about Deuce Gerald's a top 10 D lineman, and the most recent commitment, 5-star for LSU, was Lamar Brown. He's going to play D-line. We have him ranked as the number 1 athlete in the country. We've laughed about how that doesn't happen often for a offensive defensive lineman combo player. But LSU also has Richard Anderson committed, who's a 5-star. And if Lamar Brown weren't ranked as an athlete and was ranked as a D lineman, that would give them the number 1 and 2 D linemen in this class, both from Louisiana. Can they pull off 1 and 2 at receiver? It's a border state war, right? It's Mississippi. LSU's recruited Mississippi very well in recent years, notably this season. I think they have 3 commits right now, looking to add a 4th. And obviously, Jace Matthews has been high on Auburn for a long time. We have him at Rivals as the number 2 receiver in the country. So we're talking about this. Can Tristan Keys at 1 and Matthews both land at LSU? I do think that Auburn and the work they put in, Derek Nix, the relationship he has dating back to his time at Ole Miss, is big. And he's very good friends with Deuce Knight, who plays quarterback and obviously is a key piece to kind of helping Auburn recruit. At the same time, LSU surged here, Josh, and Tristan Keys, all of those guys in Mississippi, they're pitching in. LSU has a number of staff members who have recruited Jace Matthews heavily. They recently hired Kevin Bolden from Ole Miss is into the recruiting and personnel department. Donovan Tate runs recruiting. He went to Hattiesburg High, where Tristan Keys goes to high school. So they've got a lot of connections here where you would think, okay, they can be in the mix. Don't sleep on A&M. I think they're also the 3rd team after missing out on some receivers along the way. But most people would say they would think Auburn leads. But, Josh, we've seen it with more than a week to go. Things can always shift. We don't always know where these kids are leaning behind closed doors. And I think Jay's, from speaking with sources, is the NIL and the rev share, all that about looks the same. He's going to pick where he thinks education, development, fit, all of these things are most important. And that's when you sit down and go over the checklist. So I honestly don't think Jace Matthews has decided yet. And from whom I've talked to, he has not told the team yet. So I say it's LSU or Auburn. Give me an A&M as the dark horse here, with the commitment coming a little bit more than a week away.
Yeah. And then a little bit more than 2 weeks after that, Darius Gray is set to announce his decision, another 5-star potentially landing with LSU. What it's going to take for the Tigers to win out on this one?
We see Brad Davis, LSU's O-line coach, and Carl St. Cyr, who works as an assistant on the recruiting side at the O-line. They seem to do this every year. They go and flip Weston Davis from A&M as a 5-star. They go and grab 5 stars late in the game. And how long have we sat around and talked about Darius Gray out of Virginia being a top target for LSU? Steve Wiltfong has his RPM pick
Yep.
on LSU still, and he's going to have a number of hats on the table, Josh. But I compared this one to Lamar Brown, the 5-star who just committed. He had a Miami hat, a Texas hat. Everyone knew he was deciding between LSU and Texas A&M. He picks LSU. This one, I think everyone agrees it's LSU or South Carolina, and it's a bit of the inverse, right? Now, LSU's fighting the distance factor. South Carolina is the school closer to home and has been recruiting him a long time. So it's going to be one of those two teams. I think he's using these next few weeks to really kind of feel out now that the dust has settled. We're in a dead period that's gone on for a month and will continue through his commitment at the end of August, a 2-month dead period. And I think that gives him and his family a chance to say, hey, where do we think the best fit is, regardless of distance, all of those things. Where do you think you'll be developed? Where do you see yourself? And he's always spoken very highly of LSU. So honestly, and if you speak to sources on South Carolina, LSU sides, I think both would tell you this is a 50-50 race, and these next few weeks will decide it.
All right, so we'll see what happens with Darius Gray. But even without Darius Gray on this commit list, like you said, LSU has 3 5-star commits: Tristan Keys, Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson. What's the odds that they can hold on to all 3 when the ink is dried on signing day?
Yeah, I just dropped some new tidbits on Tristan Keys and kind of the developments there that LSU's done to work to continue to keep Tristan committed. Let's not overlook, Josh. He went on spring visits. He went on summer official visits to other schools, Miami, Tennessee, a number of schools who, they can play the NIL game
heavily.
A&M. They can play the NIL game, the rev share game, all this stuff. And he never decommitted. He stayed committed to LSU. He gave them his final visit. Now we're, as I said, a month into a 2-month-long dead period, and he's still committed. So I think you can feel as good as you possibly could about a number 1 receiver who is not from the state of Louisiana. At least he is from the Pine Belt, which is a 2.5-hour drive, as I've noted before. LSU's closer to home for him than any school that has recruited him and really kind of significantly been in the mix here. So they've got a super talented class already, obviously Keys being the headliner. And then you look at the in-state kids, Richard Anderson, number 1 D lineman coming out of New Orleans, and then Lamar Brown, number 1 D lineman coming out of Baton Rouge. Both those guys, Brown committed recently. You feel like he sticks. And Richard Anderson didn't take any visits this summer that weren't LSU. And for a number 1 D lineman, a top 20 player, to do that, I think speaks volumes to him saying, hey, look, I feel good about where things are. And look, the pitch to him and the reality is that he's going to battle Lamar Brown for the number 1 prospect in Louisiana. And both those guys are going to have a chance to play a lot early on as true freshmen. So handicapping it, I feel the best about the 2 Louisiana kids, but not far behind is Keys, just given what I've heard, what we've seen from Keys, dating back to his commitment in March, and then him being a kid that's from South Mississippi, which isn't far from Baton Rouge.
Do we know how many days Tristan Keys has been committed? Do we know when his 300-day anniversary is?
March 22nd to now, however long that is.
All right. No, we'll see what happens. Shea Dixon.
Keys and Matthews, really quickly, they've both talked development a lot, and it sure doesn't hurt that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are out there signing very big contracts after winning a national championship here. So just a note on the wide receiver front as to why they're having a lot of success here recently there.
Yeah, and it looks like, this season could go a little bit differently. It looks like the offense is big things expected from this offense. I think we could see a lot of fireworks coming on that side of the ball, so that'll also give them a good chance to hold on to some of these guys. Shea Dixon, Bengal Tiger, thanks for dropping by the Inside Scoop today.
Thanks, Josh.